É só para começar aí. Acho que é. Aqui tem uma turma. Good morning, everyone. It's my great pleasure to introduce the speaker of the opening conference of this summer school, which is specially dedicated to the memory of Professor Giovanni Baraldi, emeritus professor of the University of Ferrara, who was a frequent participant and a close friend of our summer school. Our speaker, Professor Dr Keseru, obtained his PhD at Budapest in Hungary and joined the Sanofi leading a chemistry research lab. He moved to Gideon Pier in 1999 as the head of computer-aided drug discovery. He earned DSc from the Hungarian Academy of Science in 2003, and he was invited for a research professorship at the Budapest University of Technology and Economics. Since 2017, he was appointed as the head of discovery chemistry at Gideon. He contributed as head of computer-assisted drug discovery team to the discovery of psychotic Reversible that has been approved in marketed from 2016 in the US and Europe. He served as a Director General of the Research Center for Natural Science at the Hungarian Academy of Science. From 2015, he is heading the National Chemical Research Group at the Research Center for Natural Science. His research interests include medicinal chemistry and drug design. He has published over 290 papers and more than 15 books and book chapters and 41 international patent applications. Gyorgy was awarded by the prestigious Overton Meyer Award of the European Federation of Medicinal Chemistry. He has been elected as Fellow of the Royal Society of Chemistry as a corresponding member of the Hungarian Academy of Sciences. So, Gyorgy, in the name of the organizing committee, I would like to thank you very much for accepting our invitation. Please, the floor is yours.
Dear colleagues, good morning. First, I would like to thank very much on the invitation of Carlos, and it is a great pleasure to be here. You may recognize that I already spent the weekend in Rio. That is very unusual for land coming from Europe. You know, we have a large snow, but here we enjoyed a wonderful weekend. This beautiful city, and thank you very much again, Carlos, giving me the opportunity to speak here. During the next 1 hour, a little bit more, I would like to show you something interesting, something new on fragment-based drug discovery. And the approach I will introduce you, this is the covalent fragment approach that is recently introduced technology with some significant relevance in drug discovery. Just let me start from the very beginning. The basic goal of drug discovery is to identify new drugs and fighting against human diseases. This is a long-term goal. And on this slide, you can see a number of drugs discovered during the last decades. And this actual table shows the most successful drugs in terms of the sales all over the world. As you see here, it is not important that what exactly the structure is. Just you can see these colorful figures. These are therapeutic proteins, antibodies, vaccines. And as you see, on the first places, there are many such kind of therapeutic proteins introduced in the market. So these are very important biological drugs. However, you can see that these small white stuff over there, these are the small molecules, still very important from the drug discovery perspective. What is similar between biological drugs and small molecular drugs is that they are forming reversible interactions with their protein target. On the next slide, I will show you one on reversible interactions. And basically, if we consider the current set of drugs, only less than 1% of the drugs that bind irreversibly to their protein target. So now let's see what I'm talking about. What is the basics of the reversible binding mechanism? Probably you learn a little bit more on the famous K and log hypothesis that has been introduced more than 100 years ago by Emil Fischer. So the theory is that a drug can fit to the target protein as similar as a key is recognized by the body, right? But this is a reversible process. That means that there is an equilibrium between the free and the bound state of the target protein. Okay, this is reversible binding. Let me introduce you the big difference in reversible binding. That looks pretty similar to the reversible one. However, we put some glue to the top of the key. And when it is recognized by the law, you simply could not remove the key anymore. That means that that particular door is closed forever. You never ever can remove the key from the lock. Of course, there are particular advantages and disadvantages associated with the reversible type of binding. For example, if you would like to block a biologic process and you use irreversible binder, then you will block the protein forever. What does it mean? It means that until your body demolish the actual protein, then it will not burn. However, when the protein synthesis replaces the target protein, then the whole procedure starts again. From this perspective, you can imagine that what is the most important therapeutic area for irreversible binders? This is oncology. This is oncology. Because if you would like to kill the cancer cells forever, then you should block key enzymes, key proteins that are involved in some cycle of cancer cells so-called oncogenesis. And if you are using irreversible binders, you can block the development of the cancer cells, and that's a great opportunity to treat a different cancer. Okay, now we understand why is the basis of irreversible binding. So let's see how we can realize it. Okay. So basically, a covalent binding, that is a synonym for irreversible binders. They form a covalent bond to the target. That is the difference between the reversible binders, because reversible binders they do not form covalent bond. Instead, they are forming secondary interactions like H bonding, ionic interactions, van der Waals interactions, hydrophobic interactions, something like that. These are reversible interactions. But a covalent bond is truly irreversible interaction. Okay, how does it work? So basically, we have an electrophilic molecule, an electrophilic ligand that targets different protein nucleophiles. These are basically amino acid residues with nucleophilic properties, like the cysteine SH, the threonine OH, or the tyrosine OH, or the lysine NH, or the histidine NH. Okay, so from a chemistry point of view, and this is a great example of how we can combine chemistry and biology. From a chemistry point of view, this is a conventional reaction. Okay, an electrophilic ligand with an electrophilic group, we are calling the group a vortex. Okay. So this electrophilic group attacks one of the nucleophilic residues around the binding site and forms this irreversible covenant bond. Don't forget that, as in the case of reversible bond, the first important step of covalent binding is also the molecular recognition, right? So, if the law could not recognize the T, then it doesn't matter whether the T has a U or not. Okay, the first step is recognizing the T, and this is the so-called molecular recognition, the non-covalent interaction. And you see here, this is the free protein. This is the step when the ligand, this light blue one, recognized by the protein, and just because of the molecular recognition, there is a proximity between the electrophilic and the nucleophilic components of the chemical reaction that forms finally this red covalent bond. Okay, there's the key. This is the two-step process. First, molecular recognition by non-covalent interactions, and the second, there is the formation of a strong covalent bond, the irreversible interaction between the protein and the covalent. Okay, now we understand how exactly a covalent binder works. Okay, now I would like to turn to the other part of the approach. This is fragment-based drug discovery. So, on Thursday and Friday, I will deliver a course on fragment-based drug discovery, and for all the students who will be more interested on this approach, I would be more than happy to meet you guys and explaining a little bit more on this approach on an interactive way. But today, this is for the plenary. So I just want to mention that the most important part of fragment-based drug discovery is that, look at that. This is the binding site of the protein. And instead of probing millions of pretty large molecules to the binding site and selecting only the few who can adopt this type of shape, that's a very complicated shape, instead of doing this, we decide to use smaller molecules. And these smaller molecules, these are called fragments. What is the big advantage of using fragments? Look at that. If we are using fragments, then we have more chance to find fragments that would fit very well to the sub-pockets of the binding site. So basically, the approach would provide more starting point for optimization, right? Because we have the higher chance of finding as compared to the more complicated molecules. Just because of the smaller molecules, these are typically polar molecules containing many polar atoms. Because of the high concentration screening, we should apply to identify these more hits here. They have better physical chemical profile. They have better solubility. They can form advantageous interactions to the protein target. And just let me show you that. Okay, we have identified these two. Okay, but we can optimize these fragments very easily. For example, we can connect these two. Okay, just having a larger molecule. And if we discover that there are more space over here, we can grow in the direction of the arrow of the molecule, and we can build the final molecule within the binding site from glass, like a Lego blur. Okay? So that means it is easier to do if we compare to try to find, a perfect molecule from the universe that fits very well to this complicated binding site. Why should we do that? Instead, this is my way of thinking here, my suggestion that let's build our molecule block by block within the binding site of the protein. And this is the basis of fragment-based drug discovery. Okay, so now let's combine these two things: fragment-based drug discovery and covalent mechanism of action. As mentioned, if I use the covalent mechanism of action, then I might have enhanced potency, higher selectivity, because I can target a specific amino acid within the binding site, and this would result in better pharmacodynamics and, of course, prolonged duration of action, because the compound simply could not leave the protein, the binding tank of the protein. Okay, so let's combine these advantages properties of fragment-based drug discovery and covalent mechanism of action, and we reach covalent fragment, and this is the story I would like to share with you today. I'm a big supporter of covalent fragments because it is easier to detect. But look at that. If a covalent fragment is bound to be binding site, then using mass spectrometry, I can detect. There is no need for X-ray. There is no need for crystals. There is no need for SPR and other more difficult detection technologies. Instead, using a simple mass spectrometry, I can identify which is the fragment bound to the protein. Second, a small fragment, unfortunately, could not form enough interactions being very potent. However, if they are covalent, they have an enhanced potency. And that is also useful because I can use covalent fragments in biological models without any problem. It improves target engagement because it is stuck basically to the target protein. And it is very good that if a fragment is bound covalently to the protein, then it could not move out when I'm trying to connect with other fragments or I'm trying to grow the fragment, because already the fragment is fixed to the given point of the binding site. So it looks beneficial, right? Okay, so this slide shows you what I would like to share today. One point is just a roadmap, but how exactly we can find electrophilic moieties that would be useful to turn the non-covalent fragment covalent. Next, I would like to show you some new types of electrophilic residues being discovered. And finally, a few applications. Like, I'm not absolutely sure that all of the examples I prepared for you we can discuss today, but it is more important that you can understand the basics of the approach, and I will focus on that. Okay, so let's see this collection of small fragments. First, we selected this core. This is this trifluoromethyl family core. Okay, this is a very simple core. And what we did, we equipped this core molecule with different electrophiles. see here. Basically, there are five classes of electrophiles we use. First, these are the Michael acceptors. These molecules can react with Michael addition. You know from organic chemistry science, right? So these are electrophilic Michael acceptors, and these could modify typically cysteine residues, because cysteine SH, this is the most nucleophilic residue of the proteins. Okay, so these are the Michael acceptors. These are the molecules isotonic cyanates. These can react with nucleophilic additions. These molecules are typically holoacetamides. These can react with nucleophilic substitution reaction. Here I show you an addition elimination reaction, and the tires, of course, they can modify these things in oxidative transformation. Again, please remember what you learned during the organic chemistry course. These are basically the same reactions. We are doing these reactions within the protein binding site. That's why I can say that chemistry is a very important discipline of life, because this is not only the way how the protein was constructed from the different amino acids, but I now show you that how exactly we can perform chemical reactions within the binding site of the protein to reach a therapeutic effect, right? Okay, so we equip these different warheads to the same core. And why? Because we can activate these electrophilic residues with the two trifluoromethyl, because they have the electron controlling character. They are activated the Michael acceptors and also the others. It is very easy to detect these small fragments, right? Because we can use fluorine NMR because we have 6 fluorines here. Unfortunately enough, in the center, this is a benzene ring that is UV active, and we can detect the UV activity simply HPLC mass spec analysis. This is very stable. It shows no interference with any directions. Here I show you that we have collected 24 different warheads representing the 5 different chemistries already discussed. And the good news is that every and each warhead represents different electrophilics. That means that using these 24 different fragments, we can cover a wide range of electrophilicity, from the very, very reactive to the much less reactive. So we can screen these electrophilic fragments with proteins having different nucleophilic residues. Okay, so let's see what we can do first. Here are different proteins, and we use this small library. We screen these 3,4-methyl fragments with proteins. The first one, this is Murray. Murray, this is an antibacterial target, and I show you that if we are focusing to this column here, these are the green warheads out of these 24 that modified and blocked Murray. And just because Murray is an enzyme used by the bacteria to develop their cell walls. If we are blocking this enzyme, then we can destroy the cell wall of bacteria, and therefore the bacteria, we can kill the bacteria this way. Next one, MOAB. This is a monoamine oxidase, different forms, A form and B form. These are enzymes in our brain, and they involve in the metabolism of different endogenous neurotransmitters, like, for example, dopamine. And there is a very serious disease associated with the disturbance of central dopamine levels. This is the Parkinson's disease. And MOAB inhibitors are used to block the metabolism of dopamine, and therefore they could prevent the development of a serious clinical signs associated with Parkinson's disease. So here we screen the library against both MOA and both MOB. These are the two isoforms. The good news is if you can block MOA and do not touch MOB or reverse, you can block MOB, but keep MOA functional. This is very important, reducing the number of side effects, right? So we show that there are a couple of different biological activities, even with this small 24-member library, that selectively binds to MOA, and there were others selectively modified covalently MOB. The next one, this is HDAC. HDAC. This is the histone deacetylase enzyme. Basically, this is an epigenetic target. This enzyme involved in the late stage modification of the chromosomes. They can chemically modify the histones associated with the chromosome, and therefore they have some role in oncogenesis. So if we block HDAC, then we can expect some anti-cancer activity. Immunoproteasome, next one. This is a very complex system. So this is the Goliath of the proteins. You can consider a big complex of proteins. The proteasome consists of 27 different proteins associated into one single arrangement. This is the proteasome. The immunoproteasome, that's an important, it has an important role in the activation of our immune system. Therefore, we can modulate our immune system if targeted immunoproteasome. And finally, this is also an oncogenic target, KRAS G12C. KRAS, this is an oncogenic integrated protein that is very hard to attack by small molecules because it has no very good binding site. It has only one side. This is used by GT. But the problem is that, believe it or not, this is true. GTP is a very, very, very strong binder of KRAS. That means it has a picomolar affinity towards KRAS. Okay, so how to compete with a ligand like that has a picomolar affinity to KRAS? You simply could not displace with other ligands because it has a much better binding profile in any molecules ever, right? But here, the trick comes because if we have a weaker molecule, but we are using the glue, then the weaker molecule, if ever could reach the binding site, then the GDT is over. Okay. Good. So we explored KRAS as well with small molecule. You can see here there are many queens, especially in the upper part of the table. But even with this small, this tries to be able to block the KRAS activity. Okay. Now, one by one. So here is murine. In the case of murine, there is cysteine within the binding site. We apply different fragments and we block the entry to the binding site. That's all. That's the trick. And here you can see the different fragments we investigated. And this is phosphomycin. Sorry. Here are the different fragments we investigated. This is phosphomycin. This is a known antibiotic. And we were able to identify fragments similarly active as phosphomycin as an approved drug. Of course, I don't believe that any of these compounds could be developed to a drug, but it is rather intuitive that still in this small library, we were able to pick up several very good hits fortifying this central system. And this is only for your memory. This is how we use mass spectrometry to analyze the exact site. You can see here that there is a red sea. That is the particular system we identified by mass spectrometry being modified. Okay. Next, MOA, MOB. If you look the shape of the enzymes, these are very different. The challenge is not the overall size and shape, but unfortunately, the active site pretty much similar to each other, right? So that's the problem. However, in the case of MOA, we were able to identify a cysteine residue that is not available in MOB, right? So therefore, when we split the different fragments, these are electrophilic, these are trying to modify a cysteine. However, no cysteine available in MOB phase, because we were able to identify a specific, a selective MOA inhibitors that modifying the cysteine only available in MOA. That's great. And that was the first case. We identified a covalent MOA inhibitor that are attacking the protein and not the cofactor. Okay, HDAC. This is the HDAC protein here. These are the fragment hits we identified. And interestingly, we identified different sites like the purple and green. Okay. Why these sites are interesting? Because these are not located at the active site. These are other sites previously not known. Typically, in the case of HDAC, the substrate, I mean the histone is using a different site. In comparison, these sites are not influencing histone binding, but they can block the modification of the histone, right? So we do not disturb histone binding because there are other HDACs. HDAC 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and more. If we block histone binding, then we disturb all the other HDACs. Instead, These are the so-called allostatic sites we identified by screening these small lines and modifying covalently H-K. We were able to plot histone modification, specific, selective towards the H-K. So this is again really good news. Okay, now I show you how David blocks Gyorgy. Here is Gyorgy, 27-member huge protein complex, immunoprobes, right? And we screened the line again. You could see here that we found many fragments, these small molecules. Just let's consider these drive methyl, phenyl, or with 3 or 4 atoms. And this is basically the stone used by us, we are taking, of course, used by us, blocking with huge immunoprobes and a specific site of the EVQFM-EB. So you can see this is the mass spectrum of the immunoproteasome. This will be pretty much complicated as compared to the previous one, just because of the very common structure. And using this small stone, we were able to plot the stuff. Seems to be wrong. Okay, now let's see KRAS. Here is the surface of KRAS. Okay. Here you can see GTP bound to KRAS. And I show you these purple stuff here. These are the locations we were able to modify with the small covalent fragments. And interestingly, just modifying the KRAS with these small fragments, it prevented to bind GTP anymore. So this is also an indication how we can use these small fragments to consider as a starting point, developing new mechanisms of actions. Okay, now we can continue with a little bit more complicated situation. This is the tree of kinases. Kinases, these are very, very important enzymes because they are using ATP to phosphorylate other proteins. There is a huge number of kinases in the human body, but it's basically more than 500 long. And we can organize the so-called kinase tree on the basis of similarities between different kinases. Okay, I show you. Look at that, this purple part of the kinase tree. Every and each endpoint here represent the kinase. And if, for example, they are close to each other, then it means that they are structurally related, sequentially related. Okay? And if we compare, for example, BTK, this is one of the kinases we investigated, to ERK2, then these are not very different, not very similar to each other, because they are located at different branches of the kinase tree. Okay? Or for example, GLOB here and RST2. These are very different from BTK because they are located from different branches of the kinase tree. What we did? First, we selected 5 different kinases. These are BTK, ERK2, GLOB, RST2 and map, and map2 K6. The idea was that every and each kinase that I showed you, they are located at the different branches of the kinase tree. Okay, we screen the library against we studied the member library against these five, and you could see here that, oh, look at that. These kinases are different not only because of the sequence, not only because of the structure, but also because of the different reactivities shown against the library. Look at that data. Show different patterns of activities for different complex fragments. Of course, they were fragments like this one, number 10, 11, 12. Look at that. These fragments don't have each kinase. I think that these are not very much interesting fragments because they show no specificity, right? But there are other fragments, for example, 7 and 23. Look at that. These fragments brought BTK, but they did virtually nothing with all the others. Oh, sounds good. Okay, now let's consider our target. These are not our target, these are not our target. Our target, TX3. Okay, this is Gyorgy kinase 3. Okay, first, let's locate the target on one of the branches of the kinase. Oh, that's great. TX3 is located pretty close to BTK. So that means that we should use number 7 and number 23 to modify TX3 because they are close to each other. Because it shows a chance that we can apply pretty much the same library numbers to modify TX3. Okay, we did it. You see here, and look at that. Although there are some differences, but fortunately enough, in the case of the fragment 7 and 23, they block TX3 very effectively. Okay, next. Let's consider the general molecule that binds literally every each kinase because they pretty much similar, looks similar to the heterocyclic core of ATP. Okay, and let's activate this core over here with number 7 and number 23 functions. Okay. Here we activate different electrophilic moieties like the thiol, and here is the number 7, and this one is number 23. So we synthesize a small set of compounds. Of course, we synthesize some other compounds as well. Look at that. This is pretty similar to this one, right? The 7, except this is not electrophilic. Okay? And let's see what happened in biology. Number 7, this one, submonomolar total state against TX3. Number 23, again, submonomolar total state. And there are some others with something less potent compounds. Okay. Let's see the selectivity. Look at that. Even with BTK, it shows more than 100-fold selectivity. However, BTK is the closest kinase, TX3. Virtually, it has no activity against the others except for protein. So I showed you that screening the library against different kinases of interest, and we can identify the base of the different branches of the kinase tree, we can apply the appropriate electrophilic group design against our protein target. Okay. So all of these small fragments were developed against cysteine. And now we created something similar for lysine. We just completed the synthesis of library numbers. We used pretty much the same scaffold and equate a different lysine reactive moieties. And we can use this library against different protein targets having reactive lysine residues. Okay, so this was the story of the role and how to optimize the warheads. The next part will focus on creating absolutely new, brand new warheads. So I skip this one and focusing on this slide. I would like to show you that what is the new warheads we discovered. Okay, so look at that. These are small heterocycles, 6-member and 5-member heterocycles containing at least one nitrogen. Okay, so look at that. If you apply a different functionalities like chlorine, bromine, iodine, cyanide, vinyl, and ethyl, then you can make these compounds as Michael acceptors, or in the case of the halogens, reactive molecules that could label the protein with nucleophilic substitution reaction. Okay. Another trick I would like to show you: if you methylate the nitrogen here, then you can activate even further the heterocycles because of the electron deficiency of the core would improve the electrophilicity of the reactive functionalities, right? Okay, so again, we can cover a wide range of electrophilicity using these 4 heterocycles. Why is it important? Because one company that is a pioneer in fragment-based drug discovery, this is S-Test, located in the UK, they introduced the so-called mini-frag approach. Then they used small heterocycles to screen whether the heterocycle can form an enzyme with the target protein by X-ray. And they found if they used these small heterocycles, they were able to identify hotspots of the proteins and also warm spots of the proteins. These are the places on the protein surface that can be used as allostatic binding sites. So we were interested in that what if we prepare the covalent analogs of these mini-frags by introducing these electrophilic functionalities with the non-methylated or methylated versions of these heterocycles. So here is the compounds we synthesize. Here you could see the different heterocycles we use. These are the non-protonated, these are the non-methylated, these are the methylated versions. And you see here a blue spot. And this blue spot shows you the exact position of the different reactive functionalities from chlorine to ethylene. Now you see that there are green boxes here. So finally, these were the heterocycles found to be reactive enough to test in biological applications. You can see immediately that the number of green boxes is higher in the case of the N-methylated heterocycles, as compared to the non-methylated one. This is an indication that if you methylate the nitrogen, then you would have more reactive heterocycles in terms of protein modification. And let's see what we did with this set of heterocycles when used against HLA. Here you should see again the green and the yellow. These are the only 4 or 5 heterocycles that were found to be active against HLA when non-methylated animals were used. And look at that. In the case of the unmethylated compounds, basically all of the heterocycles were able to block the HM8. That is a very significant result. And not only the heat rate, that was 14% versus 95% of active here, but also the biological activity, the average biological activity of the N-methylated version was much higher as compared to the non-methylated version. We use mass spectrum and we use site-directed mutagenesis to identify the exact site of labeling, exactly where these small reactive fragments modify the protein. And I show you, you already see this one, these allostatic sites already explained, but you can see here there are others as well. We identified altogether 5 different allostatic sites on the surface of HLA that can be used to develop covalent, that means irreversible, HLA inhibitors. Okay, now we have these small fragments. How to make a plot for these small stuff? We started an X-ray structure of an HDAC inhibitor. Look at that, this inbound structure. We recognized that this cysteine we identified previously as a labeled cysteine, a reactive cysteine already modified by these small fragments. This is very close to this ring, this diprophenyl ring. Okay, this is the 2D. Let's go to 3D. You can see here. Look at that. Here is the yellow stuff. This is the SH. It is pretty close to the diprophenyl ring of an already known inhibitor of HDAC. Okay, then what was the idea? Okay, let's replace these small, these diprophenyl rings with a small heterocycle, for example, N-methylated ethynyl. And this would allow us to bind this already known HDAC inhibitor irreversible to the binding site. And that would be a great advantage because HDAC, this is an oncology target. We can demolish HDAC activity on this way. Okay. We use different modeling approaches and we try to identify different analogs of HDAC inhibitors that would fit best when applying the electrophilic heterocycles instead of the diprophenyl molecule. And we designed these 2 compounds. One, this is the non-methylated version, and This one is in the end method. And both are totally. So we were very strong. We know that, okay, if something should wrong, we try to do our best, we demonstrated that this part alone can bind to the system. We know from the X-ray that the other part could bind to the pocket, and then combine both, nothing. Okay, we went back to the modeling group and designed two further compounds. Look at that. The basic difference is that now the inbound part and the heterocytes, they are closer to each other as compared to the previous one. But look at that. They worked. So that's great. Although not the non-methylated doesn't work, but the methylated, they are much more reactive and they block the H-type enzyme. And the good news is that they showed also cellular efficacy as well as demonstrated in these two cell lines. Okay. So now, I heard that you suffered a lot from COVID here in Brazil, and I can share that we suffered also pretty much the same stuff. Therefore, it is not surprising that we try to do our best during the COVID times as well. Together with British collaborators, we screened the very same library of small heterocycles against the main protease of the SARS-CoV-2 virus causing COVID-19 infection. And we sent the library to Oxford in 2000 February, very beginning of 2000, just 3 years ago. And look at that, early March, we had X-ray structures. And I show you that this is the surface of the main protease. These are the different binding sites identified. This S1, S2, S3, S4. And you could see here the small heterocycles bound to the binding site that contains cysteine residue. Because actually, this main protease, this is the cysteine protease, so we use this feature to find new fragment hits. Okay. I think so now I'm speaking for 1 hour, right? So maybe I'll show you 5 minutes. Okay. Then I skip this part because this is too complicated. Okay. Show you this one, right? So as mentioned, my primary objective is to show you that common fragments are used. Okay, this doesn't mean that every and each application we develop we should discuss here. That is not important. The important point is that you understand the theory behind the approach. Okay, so let me show you one further application. Okay, so basically what I showed, most libraries, I mean, with these 5 fluoromethyl libraries, they attack cysteine. Okay, now we develop a library attacking lysine. Heterocycles, non-methylated and methylated, they label or they attack cysteines. But what about if we would like to label different amino acids, not only cysteine, not only lysates, but I mentioned that there are tyrosine hydroxyls that would be interesting. Or I also mentioned that there are threonine hydroxyls that would be interesting. In addition, might be histidines. They are very important residues in many proteinases, and it would be useful if we can label histidines. What I show you, this is all goes from chemistry. Very sharpness. You know this first famous chemist, very sharpness. Okay? So very sharpness, and his research developed so-called suffix chemistry. That means that they discovered that sulfonyl fluorides, like this one, could react with high reactivity with different nucleotides. And from this point, there is an idea. Okay, we have sulfonyl fluorides, high reactivity. You know, it works like click reaction. Okay, you know this click reaction. Why is that? Just very recently awarded by Nobel Prize. Okay, so it works like a click reaction. It's very simple, high yield reaction. So the idea was, okay, if this guy here can react rapidly and with high yields with different nucleotides, why don't you try this one in a protein environment? And in fact, the good news is that sulfonyl fluorides, they can react. Cysteine, unfortunately, they adapt for this is not stable. So it's not very useful for cysteine. But tyrosine, that's okay. Threonine, that's okay. Histidine, that's okay. Lysine, that's okay. So now we have a warhead. Now we have an electrophile that is promiscuous, can label very different amino acid residues. Why is this important? Because if we are working with electrophiles that could only modify cysteines, that means that we can develop covalent inhibitors only for those proteins having a cysteine in a certain location. So that means if we focusing on the lysine residue, this means that we can only target proteins having a lysine and lactobacillus position. But if we are targeting the protein with sulfonyl fluorides, that doesn't matter. What is the actual secret? Because virtually all of the protein should have a binding site, have at least one threonine tyrosine resin or histidine available, right? And therefore, we can maximize the chance to find a tractable pocket for covalent inhibitors. Okay. The only problem is with sulfonyl fluorides that in the organic chemistry laboratory, sulfonyl fluorides are working in organic solvents, right? That's fine. However, unfortunately, there is no organic solvent inside us except for the atom, right? In some certain cases. Okay? But something like ethanol, the OH of ethanol, that is also nucleophile, right? Biggest problem is, however, biggest problem is water. Water, that is also a nucleophilic molecule, and simply hydrolyzes the sulfonyl fluoride. Therefore, we should find sulfonate fluoride having stability enough in water and reactivity enough to label the different amino acids, tyrosine, threonine, lysine, and histidine. Okay, so therefore, we developed a library like that. We investigated every and each differently substituted sulfonate fluoride against GSH, glutathione, and also different surrogate models like N-acetyl, tyrosine, N-acetyl, lysine, N-acetyl, right? And we find out that if the sulfonate fluoride is in meta position to a carboxyl, then it is stable enough and also reactive enough to develop a library. And how we can develop a library? It's easy stuff. Now we have this meta-substituted carbonic acid equipped with sulfonate fluoride. The carbonic acid residue, carbonic acid group, can be used to acylate different amines. Okay, so we can collect all the amines available in the world, and we can acylate them with this metal substituted sulfonate fluoride, and then we have a large collection of fragments that can be used to investigate different proteins just because of the promiscuity of the sulfonate fluoride. So now we are working on that. This is not completed. I hope that you are happy now that I cannot show you certain examples just because we are just before testing the library against different protein targets. So at the end, I show you so-called mapping libraries and 24 different warheads in the same scaffold as used against different proteins. And I show you that how useful it is to identify a new covalent inhibitor, a new allostatic site, and also targeting very complex protein targets. Also, I show you the covalent unifrag concept. We discovered new types of electrophiles that are heterocyclic and can be used to replace other heterocycles or other aromatic parts of the different molecules to convert them covalent inhibitors. And I think this one, however, I show you the first steps to identify the next generation chemoproteomics library that we will be able to use to identify covalent ligands on the base of the STUFEX technology against a wide variety of targets. So at the end of my talk, I would like to thank all of the contributors, not only in my institute, but also Darmstadt University, also a diamond light source feed, the X-ray screening of the library, GSK, was also involved in some part activities. And this is my research group here, and thank you very much for your kind attention. And I will be more than happy to answer your questions.
Thank you very much for a nice talk. We have time for some questions.
Good morning. Thank you for your lecture. It was amazing. My question is regarding the evaluation of the fragments. Do you use only IC50 regarding the covalent fragments, or do you use other metrics such as ligand efficiency as well?
Yes. Yes. this is a very good point. So first, I would like to mention that we can use biochemical and biophysical methodologies to identify active fragments. I showed you that in a biochemical screen, we measure the IC50. However, I showed you that the biophysical test, like mass spectrometry or X-ray screening, we do not consider biological activity because this is not very much important. How active these small fragments are. It is more important that they reach the target. Okay. However, if we use biochemical assay, we can also use not only IC50 but also ligand efficiency metrics as well. However, and this is important. Ligand efficiency, this is an approach developed for reversible binders. Okay, that is very important. Although it can be used for irreversible binders, but it needs modification. Okay, so original ligand efficiency only rarely applicable to covalent binders. Reason one, because formation of the covalent bond requires time. Okay, so look at that. So basically, this one is the small fragment. This is the protein. This is the binding site. Okay. First step, molecular recognition. Okay, it is recognized. It is recognized right now. Thanks to the recognition, now the electrophilic and the nucleophilic residues are close to each other. Okay. However, it requires time when the nucleophilic residue finds the electrophilic part of the molecule and the covalent complex is formed. The chemical reaction needs some time. Okay, what is the consequence of that? If you measure IC50 at, let's say, 1 minute incubation time, or 10-minute incubation time, or 1 hour incubation time, in the case of reversible binder, then the IC50 will be the same. Because IC50 is not dependent on time in the case of reversible binder. But that is not true for reversible binders because of the formation of the covalent bond I showed you. Because at 1 minute, only 1% of the molecules modified covalent, right? But after 10 minutes, it would be, let's say, 15% of the molecules already modified. After 1 hour, let's say 100% of the molecules already modified. And therefore, the IC50 will decrease at a time course of the measurement, right? So therefore, we simply couldn't use ligand efficiency because ligand efficiency changes. Okay, and from one minute, it would be, let's say, very bad. Okay, because of the high IC50. But after 1 hour incubation, that's great. We have a ligand efficient compound, but look at that. Basically, it is the same compound, right? Just the IC50 is changing. Thank you. Okay.
More questions?
Very nice talk, Professor George. Thank you so much for coming. And thank you also for the didactic. You are completely talking like a student and a professor can understand you. And
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
That was my goal. And thank you very much following my thought very consciously. So it was really a great feeling also to me because, I was in eye contact with some of you, right? And, that takes some inspiration than talking to the group of people. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I have two questions, in fact. There are curiosities. First one, do you believe that applying the concept of Homo and Lumo, low unoccupied molecular orbital, it could be applied in your project to understand before the ability of your electrifier to interact more with sustainability or relaxing?
This is a very good idea. Actually, we are working something similar. Because, look, I mentioned already that what we are doing, this is chemistry within a biology environment, right? So for us, the biology side is an environment, okay? And we are doing the same chemical reaction. You know from the organic chemistry course. When an organic chemistry course, you try to understand the formation of the new bond on the basis of the homological theory. Of course, it works. It should work independently whether you are doing the chemical reaction within the binding site of the protein or in a small glass in your lab, right? Of course, the outcome might be different. Of course, the yield would be different. There are many things that we do. However, the formation of the chemical bond is first described by Linus Pauling, it should be very the same. So this is a very good idea. Okay, just one point I would like to mention. I said that, okay, if you are running a chemical reaction in the VLSO, okay, it works well and it gives you nitrogen. That is early, that's getting to water. Zero. Okay. That's why making chemical reactions and enzymes and proteins is challenging, right? Because here we have the water, right? Okay. But sometimes the protein environment helps us. Okay. How? Because believe it or not, the protein environment it has an electrostatic surroundings. There is an electrostatic field in the active site of the protein. And this electrostatic field is something similar to the polarity of the polarity concept of organic solvents, right? So as you learned already that how exactly the solvent effect impacts the yield of the chemical reaction in the organic chemistry, that is exactly we can use the homological theory just to understand that how the different electric fields available within the protein environment would influence the reactivity of and combination of the homo and lumo gas.
The second curiosity is considering the approach of irreversible inhibition or irreversible ligand design. Do you think that when you analyze your data using molecular modeling, docking approach or even crystallography study could be better than dynamically, molecular dynamically?
Yes, here the big challenge is that not only non-covalent interactions, but covalent, new covalent bond is formed. Unfortunately, these type of calculations like docking and molecular dynamic simulation, they are perfect for non-covalent interactions. The second one. However, formation of the new covalent bond could only be described by quantum mechanics. Okay, so what is the solution? The solution is simple. We should combine quantum chemistry and traditional molecular mechanics, molecular dynamics. Okay, and this is the QMMS approach, right? In this case, we focus quantum chemical calculations to the region where the new bond is forming. Okay, because we need to describe the process of the combination of the HOMO and LUMO orbitals, and only quantum chemistry can do it. Okay. However, all the other parts of the protein can be described by the very same methodology as used in docking and also in dynamics.
More questions?
Yes, please.
Yeah, Professor. Thanks for talks. Thinking about into the research of these molecules, isn't there a concern about toxicity? Because if there ends up causes of toxic reaction to the patient, then there will be no coming back.
Okay. This is a very relevant point. I should address. Previously, electrophilic compounds were considered very dangerous compounds because they modify different proteins irreversibly, and that would result in some idiosyncratic toxicity. That's why. However, there are many cases in the literature where covalent drugs work very well without any serious toxicity problems. I would like to share a few of them. Let's consider aspirin. Aspirin, that is a covalent binder. It modifies one of the steric residues of the COX-2 enzyme. And you probably know, right? Or beta-lactam antibiotics, right? They are also modifying covalently the beta-lactamase target, and they are in use in multiple infectious diseases, right? There are many more examples, and the question is that how we can design safe electrophilic or covalent inhibitors. First, we should consider that we need the activity, but not too much. Okay? So therefore, we should optimize the overhead. I'll show you that one. It is very much important, right? This is one point. If you have a highly reactive warhead, it will modify everything in your body. That is the way of the sanity, right? If you optimize the reactivity, then you can reduce the risk of toxicity significantly. This is one point. The second point is that it is important that the covalent inhibitor should first be recognized by the target using non-covalent interactions. And if those non-covalent interactions are specific, I mean the scaffold of the covalent inhibitor that is specific to one particular protein, then even if you put electrophilic moiety or reactive moiety of the scaffold that would only react with the surrounding amino acid that is available in the case of the particular protein you designed for. So this is the two important points of the design of covalent inhibitors. To avoid the toxicity, you should find a scaffold that specifically binds to the target protein. This is first point. Second point, you should optimize the warhead being not too reactive, but just reactive enough to modify the nucleophilic residue available in the close vicinity of the scaffold. This is the two design principles. And if you follow this, then you can avoid toxicity.
Any other question? No? Please.
Gyorgy, thank you very much for excellent talk. You presented some results about the SUFEX chemistry. Are you interested also in SUFEX chemistry?
Yes.
Trials or
Yes. Yes, that is a very good point. Because I mentioned the limitation of the SUFEX chemistry, the SUFEX chemistry, that basically this is a triazole replaced the fluorine atom of the SUFEX. So these dyes are more stable, a little bit less reactive, but we can consider that. The problem is that these are very specific for OH groups, like 3 of tyrosine and 7. So they are not really promiscuous. Therefore, fluorosulfate, this is the new big O, because fluorosulfates, they are reactive enough, they are promiscuous enough, and they are stable enough in water. So, yes, there are some attempts using the SUFEX chemistry. However, fluorosulfates, now they seem to be more promising.
Okay, I have one question. What do you think about the use of reversible covalent binders in order to amplify responses to a greater number of targets?
Yes, for the simplicity, I did not mention that there are something in the middle. I mentioned that there are reversible compounds, and I mentioned that there are irreversible compounds. However, Carlos pointed out that there are further compounds that are covalent binders, however, they are reversible. Okay, I explained how it could be. Please concentrate on your previous studies in organic chemistry. Please focus on Michael addition. Okay? If you remember Michael addition, this is a reversible chemical reaction. Okay? We have Michael addition, that is the nucleophilic addition, conjugate addition, as we learned. However, we have the retromichael addition that is going on the other way. Okay, so again, here is the Michael acceptor. Okay, here is the SH group. Michael acceptor attacks towards the binding site. It is recognized then the chemical reaction appears. This is the Michael reaction. Okay. Now, this is how Michael addition bond covalently. However, Michael addition is reversible, right? And it's reversible. Then the ligand is now free to move out. Okay. What is the difference between just reversible ligands and covalent reversible ligands? The difference is that the covalent reversible ligand pointed out by Paulo that spends more time within the binding site. Okay, because of the covalent interaction. That quickly released and ligand would dissociate from the binding site. That is also a point to reduce the toxicity, right? Because that is not forever, just a significantly long time to modify the protein. Okay? So the answer, in some certain cases, some certain protein targets, this is a useful approach. If, for example, we really do not want to remove the protein from its biological function, then it is a good approach. Or there are other specific cases, like there are molecules that catch another molecule, okay? And if catched, the whole complex will be eaten by a big protein, right? So these are the so-called PROTAC molecules, okay? Just catching something, and if catched, then a huge protein eats the whole complex. That's all. In this case, if you would like to catch the protein, right? Then this type of interaction, like the reverse covalent, that is useful, because if you catch a protein and then covalent bond is formed for a while, that is important, and the complex should be stable only for that time when the big protein eats all the other, right? After that, it would be better to release, the skeleton. Who cares, right? But for example, in this case, this is useful. So that there are some certain cases when we revert to a complex approach.
So please join me to thank George once again, please. Now I'm going to ask Lucas to conduct the book raffle.
Olha, gostei, gente. So, we're going to do a quick raffle. This book is authored by Professor and also Professor Baraldi. And one of the people of the audience will get this book. So I will get right now to get one number.
Okay.
So these are the enrollment numbers of them.
Yeah, this is a great responsibility.
Gente,
Okay.
pensa aí. So, number
24.
24, 24, quem é? I hope it's not. Aqui, é o número do flash, 24, confere que não. She's the now, we'll ask you to take a picture of your partner and take it.
Please put that
Thank you very much for pessoal. Então, deixa eu encerrar aqui. Nós vamos ver você em volta. Os almoços você vê, os cursos, certo? Você casa. Até logo.
Deixa eu